Hi, my name is Thao, and today I'm going to show you how to make baklava that is flavored with pistachio and orange blossom water. Now, the first step to making our baklava is to make our syrup. We want that to cool while we're assembling the baklava. So here I have our water, sugar, honey. Honey is a key flavoring component in baklava. And we have a cinnamon stick, 10 cloves whole, and also half the zest of an orange. I'm just going to peel it off with a vegetable peeler. That's about half the orange. So we're going to turn on our flame. And we want to bring this to a boil, and then once it comes to a boil, turn it down and simmer it for 15 minutes. Okay, so our baklava syrup came up to a boil. It simmered for 15 minutes, and now I'm going to turn off the flame, and I'm going to add my orange blossom water. This is orange blossom water. You can find it in most grocery stores in the international section. It is really floral. It smells kind of like oranges, but more perfumey, and you can use it in a lot of things. I love it. I actually have a perfume that smells like it. So we're going to add our 1½ tablespoons right in. The reason that we don't add this at the beginning is because it will boil off and you won't be left with that amazing perfumey smell. Okay, so now we're just going to let this sit here and cool, and we're going to go move aside and work on our pistachio walnut baklava filling. So now it's time to make our baklava filling. And in this bowl I have already chopped 2 cups of pistachios, 1½ cups of walnuts, and ½ cup of sugar. And you can chop the nuts either on a cutting board with a knife, or you can put them in the food processor. The most important thing is just not to have any whole nuts left. It can be a little sandy. Some of these nuts are a little finer than others because I chopped mine in the food processor. And now I just want to mix them all together. So here I have half of a box of Phyllo. They actually come in 2 of these packages, so just grab one of them out of the box. Going to unroll it here. And I want to trim it so that it's roughly the size of my pan. I'm using a 9 by 9 inch pan here. Just going to mark with my knife. Just cut it right into a square. You can set the extra aside for another project. I have here 2 sticks of butter melted. Just going to liberally butter the inside of the pan. Up the sides too. So the first layer for the baklava is 6 sheets of Phyllo, and you want to butter each one. It's a little bit of a tedious process, but it's worth it in the end. So here I have my buttered 6 layers of Phyllo, and I'm going to put half of my nut filling right on top. You can eyeball half. Just spread it out evenly. I like to give my pan a little shake, and that evens it out pretty well. Okay, now we do 6 more sheets of buttered Phyllo. Okay, so my second layer of Phyllo is done, the second 6 sheets. And I'm going to dump my second half of filling right on top. Make sure you get all that in there. And spread it out once again. Shake to level. And the last 6 sheets of Phyllo on top. Okay, so my last layer of Phyllo is on here. I'm going to go preheat my oven to 350 degrees, and then I'm going to put this in the refrigerator to set up for about 10 minutes. Alright, so our baklava pan has chilled in the refrigerator for about 10 minutes, and what we're looking for here is that the butter is just set enough that it's hard, the phyllo is hard. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually just trim off this excess scrap around the edge of the pan. This just makes for a neater presentation. So now we're going to cut it into 9 squares. I'm just going to eyeball it and score the top. Now we want to cut actually all the way to the bottom of the pan. You want to make sure to cut through the bottom layer of phyllo, otherwise you're going to have a really hard time getting it out of the pan once it's baked. Okay, now we have our 9 squares cut, and we're going to cut each square in half diagonally to make triangles. So I just go from corner to corner. Okay, so now our baklava pan is cut, and we're going to put it in the oven at 350 for 25 minutes. Once the 25 minutes are up, we're going to turn down the heat to 300 and bake for another 35 minutes. So our baklava has just come out of the oven. It's still really hot, and I'm immediately going to pour my syrup over it. And since I still have my cinnamon, clove, and orange zest in it, I'm going to strain as I pour. You want to use all of the syrup. It might seem like a lot right now, but the phyllo will soak it up as it cools. I think this is the best part of making baklava because you kind of get a honey orange blossom facial as you're pouring the syrup into the hot pan. So now we're just going to let it cool before we touch it. This is also a hard part, but you don't want to dig into it now or your baklava will just fall apart.